Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I'm your host, Greg Zachwitz, and today we're talking to one brand about how they went from an idea to being accepted by golfers on the PGA Tour. And if you don't think your brand is capable of achieving the same type of reputation or acceptance, think again. Joining me today is David Poole, the founder of Golfdotz. David, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Anytime. We always love you. We were talking before we started recording. You're in
Mm.
Illinois. My wife is from Illinois. I've been there plenty of times. Tell us a little bit about what part of Illinois you're in.
We're actually in a small town called Cary, which is about 45, 50 minutes outside of Chicago. It's a great place we've been here 18 years, great place to bring up the kids. Small town USA, and yet you can be in Chicago downtown very easily and have access to all of what Chicago offers as well. We love it.
There you go. How can you go wrong? Golf courses by you, I assume.
Actually, there's three golf courses within like 10 minutes of my house. That's not why we bought the
Look
house.
at it.
And I certainly don't golf as much as I would like to, believe me. That's one of the downsides of having a golf brand, believe it or not.
Completely get it. Completely get it. So, David, you mentioned having a golf brand. I've mentioned Golfdotz before. So, let's do a quick level set for people who are tuning in here that might not know anything about you or very little about you. Tell us a
Sure.
little bit about your product, how long you've been in business, and kind of who your target audience is.
Right. Well, actually, Golfdotz started 15 years ago when I had this crazy idea to sort of give something a try to mark a golf ball in play. I hated the fact that, typically you just take your ball, you put a marker pen on it, it's a mess. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And we just sort of played around with ideas. And then we came up with what's called we call it transferable ink. And it looks beautiful on the ball. It's rule conforming by the USGA and RNA, which was key. And that wasn't what happened at launch. I mean, at launch, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't think professional golfers were going to use our product. I didn't, that wasn't a target, my target was the wider audience and people that really enjoy golf. They want to add a bit of personality to the ball. And if I'm being truly honest, we had nothing 12 weeks before the PGA show. This is a complete wing and a prayer. I think I've got something. I haven't got time for a focus group. Google the world's largest golf exhibition, PGA show, Orlando. All right, let's go for it. I'll soon find out if I'm crazy or not. And so literally that's how we started.
So, I'm kind of curious about the timing here. So, you went 12 weeks and you're like, all right, there's the major show here. So, it's
Yes.
going to roll around one time a year. So, it's either 12 weeks or a year and 12 weeks,
Yes.
give or take.
Yes.
If you didn't think PGA players were going to be using, why did you feel the need to rush that 12 weeks versus kind of getting everything settled and then giving yourself that more time? Was it the strike while the iron's hot, or can you walk us through that just a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, it was really and truly one of those, if you think back, it was 2008. So as we all know, probably the worst time in modern history to start a business. And my background had been in motor racing and working in that field. And I'd actually just signed a contract to manage an IndyCar driver at the same time. A previous business had started to fail. Our customers just started going bankrupt left, right, and center. And it was literally, oh my God, what are we going to do here? And we've got this I call it magic mix, if you like. And I'd been planning to do something, a product of my own for a while. So it was just a case of, I'm just going to go for it. Otherwise, I have no idea how I'm going to pay the mortgage. That's the honest truth. We just my wife and I, we just went. I came up with the idea, the name. I'd already been playing with packaging for another product idea, which I had.
Okay.
And you can see, I don't know if you can see the packaging behind us, but this is how the product is packaged. And back then, it didn't look as nice as it does right now. And then obviously you put them on the ball. This happens to be just like a little a pink cocktail, but you get 2 sheets in every pack. So, when we went there, that was professional golfers. I had no idea. I just needed somebody to just validate the concept because we tested it. I played around. I gave it to friends who played, but if you go to the show, you probably never been to the PGA show, but anyone watching who's a golfer, if you can get a pass, get your way in there, it's like the candy store. I mean, every possible brand in the world is there, massive booths. I mean, it's just absolutely a dream show. And here we are with our little Golfdotz 10 by 10 booth in the new exhibitor section. And the show opens and there's no traffic to our booth for the first like 45 minutes. And I'm looking at my wife and I'm like, oh my God. What have we done? And then, of course, because they're going to all the big players, and then suddenly everyone started coming. They loved the idea, and right off the bat, we got people just placing orders or wanting to place orders. And as I look back now, I'm like, how on earth did we manage to pull this off? Because I was so unprepared, and I didn't even have a distributor's price worked out. That kind of thing. And this is before e-commerce, really. E-commerce didn't exist back then, as at least that I knew of.
So the reason why I asked about the 12 weeks there is I was just speaking I did an episode with two people on the same time. They just launched businesses, and it's kind of going through those early growth struggles, which I want to talk to you a little bit about here. And I said at the end of it, what's the one thing you would do differently if you had to do it all over again? And one person said, oh, I would go much quicker. And the other one said, I'd actually slow down a little bit, right? Because they both shot at different speeds. So the 12 weeks was kind of the precipice for asking that question. But it sounds like if that PGA tour, that PGA show, sorry, not the tour, if the PGA show was like 6 months later than it was, so it gave you 9 months lead up time, still would have done it, do you think it would have harmed the business, hurt the business, or kind of done the same thing that it did?
I just think that what we actually did at the show, I wouldn't have done anything differently. What I would have had is perhaps more live product, and I would have had my pricing structures worked out. I would have had just time to organize a little bit more. But the whole point of going to that show was to find out whether people thought that putting a cool design on your golf ball was an idea, not from a printed golf ball, because you could get your name put on the golf ball, printed on for years and years, but to actually have a skull and crossbones, a lucky clover, an Irish leprechaun, you name it. We only had like 19 styles to start off with, and now I've got over 300.
Very cool. So ultimately what I hear this is, if you see an opportunity, jump on the opportunity while it presents itself. And a lot of those things will kind of take care of itself. So any golfer who's watching this probably gets the idea. Hey, I know exactly what that is. If you're a non-golfer watching this, chances are someone in your life who is a big golfer. You explained the product, but can you show that package again in the golf ball, and just kind of
so
whether you want to apply it right now or just show people like how you would apply it?
It's not a problem. I mean, it's here's the packet. Okay, so you get 2 sheets in a pack. In this case, there's 32 lucky clovers. So you get your golf dot. I'm not going to put a lucky clover on. Let's put something a bit brighter. So the 2 sheets, in this case, we're going to do some skulls. Okay, so we got some skulls here. Okay, so of course now I haven't got my glasses on, but I've done this so many times, I'll try not to mess it up. And the whole point is you can do it with your just pressure. Okay, it's a pressure application, but we developed a tool. So where's my camera here, so I don't mess up like an amateur here. Hang on a minute. So let's say we're going to place it. I just place it here on the ball. Can you see that? There you go. And then I'm going to place my thumb over it. You can, with firm pressure for 4 or 5 seconds, make it work. But we developed this neat little tool. Okay, so it's a little applicator tool, and you can actually just work it over the golf dot, really, really getting the pressure, getting the ink into the dimples. And then what you're going to see is the actual top sheet will slide off. Okay, so you're going to see that the sheet slides off. So the only thing on the ball that's gone, the only thing on the ball is your skull and crossbones. Now, of course, I'd messed that up without my glasses. I took his leg off. I rushed it. But we have perfect application. Of course, that's, doing the podcast, that's messed up the demonstration. But for example, like details like this, that can be put on. They look beautiful, they're rule conforming, and there's nothing like it, quite honestly. A marker pen, people try and draw stuff on the board, it just looks like a mess.
So thank you for that, by the way. I love it. So if you know a golfer, I'm going to give you a shameless plug because that's what I do. So if you know a golfer in your life, we're coming up on Q4 here, looking for stocking stuffers, regular presents as part of a package. Check out Golfdotz. Of course, you can find the link in the video description. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand. You got accepted, you got approval, right, by Ultimate Social Proof. It is a professional golfer saying, this product's awesome. I'm going to put this on my balls, right? So walk us through how that happened.
Okay, so what it actually is at the show, I think the acceptance was the people that have the stores. We went to the PGA show hoping to get in to find a major retailer, mass retailer, and get the regular golfers' views. What we didn't expect was, like I said, a professional golfer to want to use it. But what happened was, we did get a lot of buzz at the show, and then a guy came up to me and he told me that one of the tour golfers, his name was Rory Sabatini, wanted to use our product, and he had a skull and crossbones belt buckle. He's kind of a swashbuckling kind of guy, he's a real character, really nice guy actually. And he wanted a skull and crossbones to match his belt. And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, we can't just do that for him because we don't have rule conforming by the governing body, which is in America, the USGA, and in Scotland, it is the Royal and Ancient, the R&A. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, well, I've got no idea what we're going to do with this now. So anyway, I went through the application process, and I said, we're going to have to do this. Applied, and then I was waiting. And this is a real quick true story, okay? Saturday morning, I was in my office. I got a call from a PGA Tour rules official at a tournament, and he's telling me, Rory Sabatini is playing with a silver skull and crossbones on his board as a practice round, and your product is not, you just can't do that. What's the deal? And I literally told him, no, we've actually applied for rule conforming. It's all the paperwork's in, the application process is in. He's just not going to use that in his actual round. And the guy, the official, was going to kind of pull that. Didn't happen, thank God. And since then, that rules official has become a great customer and a good friend of the company. But
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but we got approval. And then Rory did use Golfdotz on the PGA Tour. He actually won. And we did like 5 different customs for him. We did his family crest. We did a dragon. I mean, a lot of fun things. And again, we've had other golfers use them, but including very, very famous golfers because we had the rep on tour for a while, and it's really great to have that sort of justification. We had LPGA winners, Jasmine Suwanapura on the LPGA Tour, uses our flame emojis. Alex Checker has won with a custom that we did. So that's great, but from a business standpoint, from anybody watching, does that produce sales? And the answer is no. It's just really cool for legitimacy and the brand. So after a while,
yeah,
I realized that if players want to, Rocco Media has been fantastic for us. He uses them on his clubs. He uses them on everything else, but not on his ball. He's superstitious. So I think, as we've evolved now, because we've been in business for 15 years, it's not so much, I no longer target professional golfers because we have thousands of golfers all over the world using our product. And the point of my survival is for my family to pay the bills. We need to sell product. And so e-commerce, thank goodness, has been our friend and our pivot. But you might have another question on that one, Greg. I'm not sure.
No, that's So that's super interesting because this is a conversation. Professional golfers, even if you're not professionals, we talk about influencers all the time with different customers. And there's major influencers like your Kardashians, and there's micro and macro influencers, much smaller but targeted audience. So the sales is really interesting. I said, well, does it translate to sales? Not necessarily, right? And then you kind of shift the way you market, but the acceptance gives you validity, right? It says, hey, we are a brand that is trusted. You can trust us even if you're just trusting us to have fun on, your local course or whatever. So I think it's really good for other people to know is that just because you're not accepted by professional athletes or Hollywood actresses doesn't mean you can't be successful with it, but finding some sort of maybe validity to your product or acceptance there, you can use that to kind of springboard your additional sales. But you said, I want to talk about that lever to growth a little bit because you gained the acceptance, and you didn't see that massive bump in sales right away. So a lot has changed in 15 years. We talked about e-commerce 15 years ago to now. It's a vastly different space. What was your lever for growth those first couple of years starting out? And what is kind of your lever for growth now?
Right, it's a great question. I mean, back then, like I said at the show, we wanted to find distribution. We wanted to find wholesale customers. And I didn't have time to really research the golf industry at that time. And in fact, the golf industry back then was struggling a little bit. It wasn't really as strong as it is now. I mean, we've had, year on year consecutive growth overall in the golf industry worldwide. And obviously with COVID, golf is one of the sports that was able to be played, and it had a massive increase because of that. But back then, you know, we tried desperately as a small one product brand to get into mass retail. That was what I thought was it. You get into these big chains, and you're going to sell a bazillion of them. And I was set up to manufacture a bazillion of them, and everything was going to be great. But then you find that you had levels of people who want to get involved. If it's a distributor, they don't want to give you anywhere near what you want for your product, but they say, hey, we can supply that, and then you get the agents coming in, and then you get the small golf shops. So that sort of growth to start off with, when we left that first show, I had Japanese distributor, German, South African, UK, USA, suddenly from one show, and purchase orders coming in from that one show. So we were like, fantastic, we did that. But I learned a lesson back then that it's like, be careful what you wish for with a big retailer, because they don't, quite honestly, they don't care about the little guy. They don't. Sorry if any of you guys are watching, they're from a big retailer, but that's a whole other story for another podcast. But evolving, we found that's great, but we're selling a decent amount, but the margins are getting tighter. Our costs are going up. We're a small business. How can we grow? And we really did well, but we were still very, very, small. And I needed to kind of find a way to pivot. And that came as e-commerce started to take off a little bit. And I would say that we were a bit late to the A party, the big A that everyone talks about, because I always thought, well, that's going to take sales away from our own, e-commerce. But our website, golfdotz.com, was growing, but we kind of plateaued. And then what really happened that hurt us is we had, of course, another major crisis, economic crisis with the housing and 13, 14, we got caught in the middle of those sort of crosswinds where retail was really dropping and cutting off, and e-commerce wasn't there yet. And I was geared up so much towards the big distribution, and we weren't really pushing, and I didn't know. It was my own ignorance, if you like, and I was focusing there, and I wasn't focusing so much on the world of e-commerce. And that was another completely alien arena for me. I mean, I Google ads, Facebook ads, suddenly all these platforms, I haven't got a clue. I'm not a big social media guy. But I did have a go at them and we were making money, but we plateaued.
So when you plateaued and you were, I don't say overinvested in the brick and mortar with distributors and things, and your e-commerce wasn't picked up yet, how did you navigate that? Like, what was your first step? Was it to pull out of brick and mortar, like the distributorships, a little bit more, and go, okay, I've got to figure out the e-commerce side here? Was it a natural evolution? How that progressed? Walk us through how you navigated that at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a scary time. I'm being honest with you because we're realizing that what you thought was not it. That's not the way to grow. And I would say that probably 2017 was our year from hell. I mean, 2017 was the watershed year for me, where I thought, wow, we put all this money, we put all this time and all this effort, and we are just, going nowhere. And we were doing winter golf shows, and my wife and I, we still do these shows because I love to meet our customers. I mean, some of my friends think I'm crazy, but I actually like to go to some of these shows and just sell, convert people into customers just by seeing the demonstration. Usually do the demonstration better than I did on the podcast, by the way. But um,
Did
and
fine.
so one of the friends that I had at the show with another business had said that he's just started to invest money in online advertising, but a lot more than I was thinking I would be able to do. And I was worried about him. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to be in trouble the next show I see him. So a couple of months went by, saw him again. He's like, Dave, the best thing I could have done. And so he said, yeah, we've been selling like crazy, and you got to give it a try. And I'm like, well, I'm trying it, but what I wasn't doing, Greg, was spending enough money. And it's very difficult when you're struggling at that time. And we'd already been up and then we'd been down. And I'm like, how can I justify spending all of this money? But again, it was like one of those moments that if I don't do it, we are not going to survive. And so I got an agency. He gave me the name of his agency, and we started spending the money. And it was an absolute eye opener. I mean, it immediately changed our business. I mean, and saved our bacon again. It did.
So the money spend, it's a legit concern for anyone, right? Even if
Mhm.
you're not running a business, you got to spend money to do something. Checking your bank account and stuff. For a business owner, it's twice as stressful as, again, going back to this conversation I had last week. You mentioned, like, I didn't know what I was doing. They didn't know what they were doing either, and they were scared to put the additional investment there because they're like, well, if I don't know what I'm doing, am I throwing good money after bad? Am I doing the wrong tactics? And the money's, and I'm gonna assume it doesn't work, and it might work. You're just doing it wrong. I love what you did there. Talk to your friend. You got the referral for the agency because choosing an agency can also be just as devastating if you
Yes, it
choose the
can.
wrong one. So I don't want to put words in your mouth. I would say if you're a business owner out there, find other business owners you can talk to that have used agencies, good, bad, see what you look for, get recommendations, and try to go that way to maximize your potential for success. Would you agree with that?
I would, and I would also say that educate yourself, so because how many of us out there, we're busy, we're doing a million different things, and the last thing we want to do is be going in and tweaking Facebook ads, doing some different copy, doing this, that, and the other. It's like, how much return on my investment am I getting? Oh, X, 3X, 4X, 5X, whatever, everything's sailing along. The easy thing to do is just carry on, just, you get your agency call and we sit there, and I've been guilty myself. You're listening to this stuff coming in, but you're not really asking the right kind of questions. And they just go, it's almost like some of them are going through the motions a little bit because we're one of a lot of their clients. And so my advice would be educate. I started to really look at and it's nothing short of just spending hours looking at videos, educating on how this is meant to work, new practices. So then when you're actually speaking to them, you might say, well, wait a minute, what are we doing that for? When it's clear that, okay, that might be top of funnel. But we've been doing this strategy for so long. Why haven't we changed the the copy on that? Why haven't we changed the images on that? And it's nothing short of the fact that maybe they just didn't do it because they're busy and it wasn't noticed. But you've just got to be on top of little details, and I'm learning to be better at that. And thankfully, our campaigns and our current marketing is working well.
So I love what you just said. You've been in business for 15 years, and you just said, I'm continuing to get better at that, right? So that knowledge, running a business, it's constant evolution. I appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of people, they assume 15 years, it's on cruise control at that point. You know what you're doing. Obviously not, right? Not that you don't know what you're doing, but yeah, learning is nonstop. It's for the rest of your life. Very good. You can refuse to answer this question if it's competitive information coming out here. You mentioned paid media. I want to talk a little bit about social media because we see these changes for different demographics on different platforms. Are you comfortable talking about, you don't have to give numbers if you don't want to. If you want to, we'll gladly take them. But which social media platforms are you currently seeing success with or not seeing success with, or any sort of changes in there? Are you comfortable sharing that information or no?
Yeah, no, I can certainly share the information. I mean, we probably, like everybody else, we're doing Google ads, we're doing Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and Amazon ads.
It,
And that's it. And of course, we're talking to you on Omnisend, email marketing. I know, if you're including that in this particular conversation, that's a key for us too. And I'm not just saying that because I happen to be on your podcast.
well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're not saying that just because, but maybe there's some truth there. Out of those platforms, right? Amazon, you have your traditional Instagram,
Mhm.
Facebook, paid search. Any particular social network you've seen get better over time, get worse over time, or is it just like
No,
shit, some drop, some drop, and then they come
fluctuate.
back?
It's funny. They have fluctuated, and obviously with Apple and Facebook being I won't say war with each other, but they basically are doing their own thing there. That affected us. The whole iOS switch, it affected us on the fact that, as many of the guys watching this and girls watching this, they're going to say, "Wait a minute, we used to know in granular detail what our ad spend was which demographic were we reaching." And that sort of privacy um, restriction, if you like, on the Apple platform, it threw the agencies also for a loop. I mean, and then we were looking at data. I'm like, well, I'm spending XYZ on thousands of dollars on my ads. You can't tell me the benefits that we used to be able to tell me. So what are we doing? And it took I would say a year to
Okay.
sort of get it back. Now on the Facebook side, I think we've sort of plateaued a little bit, and I think that's on me. I haven't really been pushing that platform because that's one of the platforms that a lot of our customers are on, and educating myself on some other platforms has to be a strategy. Google ads have always been good. Why, I don't know, because I think I like our product's a very visual product. It looks fantastic on the ball. Video, again, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of all the things I should be doing and I haven't done. So this is it's a cathartic podcast.
I'll bill you later.
Yeah, please do.
Uh,
um,
so, so I appreciate the insights there. I think, this is a struggle that I think every brand faces just from where to put the money, right? Do I go 75% of paid search? Do I do 25% social, or vice versa? Once you switch to social, then it's Facebook, Instagram. Is it TikTok, right? It seems to me like it's a constantly moving target. So for most people, it's funny you mentioned that 1 year where the privacy things from Apple went into effect, and then how it translates to Facebook. I do see now, at least the things I read, that it's starting to settle down, come back a little more normal. The ROAS and stuff is becoming more to privacy type things. But I'm glad you said the agencies were kind of in that mix too. They're like, I don't really know what's going on here. We're just going to figure out as we go, because it's just because you're an agency, just because you've been in email marketing for whatever for a long time, doesn't mean you have all the answers all the time, right? Stuff is always changing there. I do want to transition to email marketing. You mentioned it before. Shameless plug for Omnisend. You are an Omnisend customer, so we'll do transparency there. Um, Not while we're talking about the email, but email continues to drive a lot of businesses forward, especially ones that can't invest heavily into paid social. Can you just quickly walk us through what you're doing from an email perspective? Is it batch and blast campaigns? Is it segmented campaigns? Is it automation? Walk us through kind of your approach to email, if you will.
Yeah, sure. And I I think honestly, if you're a business that is, like if you're a startup and you're watching this thinking, what can I do? And you're worried about throwing spend into, paid social and the Google ads, it might take a while to build up enough of an email list, but email addresses, getting those contacts in by hook or by crook, as many as you possibly can, that's not costing you much money. And so it's just growing the list. Growing the list is so important because what we do is real. It's very simple. And full disclosure, I personally make our emails myself. I've given it to other people. I've paid other people to do it. And all I seem to do is tell them what to do and change things around. So maybe that's my problem. And I'm like, what I love about email marketing is I can come up with an idea. We've got a golf dot for virtually any occasion. I can quickly put a graphic together. I can send it out. I can experiment. And I do some segmenting. But as we're growing, when we were growing, I was just send all, send all, send all. But I have been learning to improve that strategy a little bit, thanks to my Omnisend representative has been really helpful. Automations, love automations. Again, once they're set up, it's just the best thing is to just like look at revenue coming in from automations. And so while you're out playing golf, if you get the chance to do that, automations are bringing in money into your business. You send an email, and lo and behold, people seem to like your product. They're buying it. And so as that grows, as your list grows, that becomes, to me, honestly, email marketing is the best value for money that we do, because it's my time. I might be in a Saturday, Sunday evening. I'll make up a graphic. I'll take a photo. I don't care. I'll do everything. I actually enjoy that part of it, believe it or not. And then when I send it out, and we get the results, it's good. But welcome series, educate the best practices on doing those too, because it does make a difference. You don't want to bombard people, but we're a very niche industry. I mean, it's not like I'm sending out stuff for a commodity that everyone's got. So we have to be fun. It could be something even like the name of the codes that you're putting out have got a bit more thought into them and a little bit of a joke. Some of the images that we use are quite, funny, because, we're a fun brand. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we are. And so I want what you can do. I think the biggest point I would make is email marketing. You can really show your personality, and introduce your brand properly. Paid advertising, you don't quite have the same control until you get them to come to your website. But it's just email marketing is like an extension of your personality, and it's much quicker. Instant results. I mean, you'll soon know if a campaign doesn't work, because you just won't get the sales from it or the time that you sent the campaign out. So yeah, I mean, and Greg, I'm sure I'm not using every aspect of Omnisend's platform. I'm not, I'm sure.
I think you're in the majority, right? I think anyone that uses any sort of marketing tool is probably not using all the things there. And that's okay, right? You don't have to use everything. It's there in case you need it, in case you want it, but you don't have to use those things. I like what you mentioned about the welcome series, because you tied it nicely in there. I'm going to reiterate you a little bit, but I mentioned growing a list is somewhat, I'm going to change the terminology, but like slow and methodical, right? It takes time. It's not something you can just overnight snap your fingers and have
Right.
a much larger list, but it's an ongoing process. Obviously, they sign up for the list. welcome series triggers to them. That's your opportunity to engage with them. I think why that's especially important is traffic, right? It costs money to get traffic to your website. You launch a e-commerce site today, no one knows it's there other than family and friends, right? So you're spending money on Amazon ads. If I'm shopping with a new brand, a product like this, I will often go and if I find it on Amazon, I'll then search the brand, right? And I'll navigate directly to the brand's
Mhm.
website. If nothing else, to see what that website looks like. Is this legit or is it
Right.
like one of these pop-up sites that
Sure.
people are just throwing up there for search purposes? So if you have those pop-ups or list acquisition tools there, you can use that Amazon traffic, even though it's not directly linking over there, to help grow that as well. Maximize every use space there. Welcome series important for you. Is welcome series based on this? So this is a super long way for me to ask a question, which is par for the course for me, pun intended. Uh, is that your best performing automation, or is it something like cart abandonment or something else?
Um, I think at the moment, the I mean, we're getting great results from the cart abandonment. I mean, really good results on that. And we've just actually added, a browse abandonment as well, which we probably should have had done. I would say that the welcome series is strong, but the cart abandonment is probably the number one revenue generator.
Makes sense for a lot of brands. Every now and then I'll find one where the welcome series outperforms, and I try to figure out how that's possible. But I'm starting to see it a little more and more now. And I think, I don't know, I've got my reasons for it, but I think cart's usually going to win out. Browse abandonment, I'm glad you have that. Huge. I've been saying it for years, right? I think that's where people are just kind of falling into now. So can you fill that shopping need for me while I'm still in that journey there? Um, have you done anything with, since you've turned on browse abandonment, whether you've been know you're able to decrease any sort of retargeting cost that maybe you were spending before? So whether it's paid search retargeting, paid social retargeting, have you been able to see any sort of drops in that spend because the browse abandonment emails are picking up more sales, so you're retargeting less? Does that make sense the way I frame that?
No, I'll be honest with you. I've literally only just um, done that. So maybe in 6 months' time we'll have to revisit that one.
There you
But
go.
I'm confident though that that's going to produce results. I just am, and I like the um, because customers that shop on Golfdotz. I mean, there's so many aspects to when they get to our website. We've got so many products on there, and people they haven't got time. Yeah, everyone's so busy. They're so busy, and we just with the abandoned cart. It's not because they think, oh, that's you'll get the easy options where some people think, oh, I'm not paying shipping on that, and then they'll abandon the cart because they want free shipping all the time. We do offer free shipping. You just got to buy 3 packs or more. Um, but the browse abandonment, I think I really like the idea because we're going to be able to then feed them some other things, especially for example, Lucky Clover. We've got a Lucky Clover towel. We've got a Lucky Clover, some other accessories that go with that they didn't even know about until they're going to get the browse abandonment and have an extra option to add or bundle. And so I want to play with a lot of those features moving forward. I think that's going to be quite interesting to do
It's
that.
awesome. Thank you. I'll prep better next time too. I'll jump in there, figure out you only been doing browse for a little bit of time. So I appreciate it, the thoughtful answer there. I'm gonna kind of wrap up here. I'm sure I've neglected a bunch of things. We'll do a second podcast at some point based on how many things I neglected here that people want to know. But final question for you, but I'm going to give you two questions and you can answer either one. So the first one will be, if you had to do it all over again, what's the one thing you would do differently? Second question, or the alternate option would be, you launched 15 years ago. It's a much different e-commerce environment now. So if you were launching your brand today, what's something you would do? What's the first thing you would do today that maybe wasn't available to you 15 years ago?
Wow, they're two really great questions. Um, I think because of the platform that we're talking on right now, I'm going to leave the would I do it all over again question because
Okay.
that's an easy, quick answer. Yes, I would. The if I'm launching another brand, what would I be able to do that I didn't do back then? I think it's the best time in history to launch a brand right now. I mean, I just do. I mean, the tools that we have, what I would immediately just translate everything that I've done with Golfdotz to the new brand. I mean, and just educate, just switch over. Email marketing, obviously, that's just a no-brainer. And what I would do is, I might be cheating because I'm saying I'm using my Golfdotz platform to do that. But let's just say I didn't have Golfdotz. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to go, social. I'm going to probably do, and I actually do have another brand which I want to do. So it's quite a good segment into that. But I'm not going to tell you what it is right now.
I was just going to ask, can we get a teaser?
I'm really excited about what we can do. And the platforms we've got to be able, the tools we've got to be able to get it out to people, rather than spending the money, going to the shows, going through all of the stuff that we did to get to where we are right now. I'm just going to skip that whole step and go straight direct to consumer, and control my own destiny. And that's something that my one little nugget for anyone watching this who wants to take over the world with their product and get it in mass retail and sell a bazillion of them. I have a lot of conversations with people that like to say how much their company brings in revenue, but I don't care about that. It's like, how much are you left with at the end of the day? I don't need a $20 million company if it's only bringing in, 50 grand a year in my pocket. It's just, and so the exciting things that we can do now to launch another brand, maybe if we're successful, we can do a podcast about that one. We'll see if I've got enough time in my day to...
Well, if you send me 100,000, my revenue, I'll tell you whatever revenue you want, and we'll do another podcast, and I'll be happier.
Let's
and
go.
I can say my podcast did this much of revenue. All right. David, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness answers. Anyone watching, don't go anywhere, because you know me. I've always got something on my sleeve. Did I neglect, before we get to that though, did I neglect to ask you anything that you feel is super important for the audience to know?
I would just say, no, you didn't. But I honestly, from an advice standpoint, I love to help other entrepreneurs. I do get random calls from entrepreneurial people, and I always give them time. Even if the idea is the nuttiest idea out there. So if you said to me, you want to start a business and I've got this idea, I'm not going to shoot it down, but do your own due diligence and just go for it. Don't listen to a bunch of negative people who never take a risk themselves, because there's nothing to do with you. All right. You have the risk, you take it, you live by it. And if that one doesn't work, start another one. And just, I'm a very positive person. Okay. Avoid the negativity. So that was all I would say.
I love it. I think it's great advice. You always get, I think everyone, you probably got it yourself, right? You tell a family member, a friend, someone's going to go, you sure that's the right idea? You sure that's the right time? What if this happens, right? It's always the negative side. I think it's proven. Just human psychology will do that too. So I love what you say. Surround yourself with positive people and think positively and just do it. So thank you for that. That's awesome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And golfers, go out and get your Golfdotz.
Absolutely.
Christmas
we're coming up on, I mean, this video will be long past Q4, but we're coming up on Q4.
Hey,
right. So
get them. Golfdotz, great.
That's right. That's right. People golf year round. So
I appreciate that.
David, you ready for the lightning round?
Sure.
You're like, what is this? All right, it's pretty simple. 5 questions. Give me your gut reaction, answer, and we'll call it a day after that. So let's go. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
If you put a piece of bread in a toaster and it burns, is it burnt bread or burnt toast?
Burnt toast.
Peanut butter, creamy or crunchy?
Crunchy.
And pineapple on pizza, fair or foul?
Fair.
All right. David Poole, everyone, founder of Golfdotz. If anyone is looking for unique gifts for the golf lover in their life, be sure to check out the website, golfdotz.com. That's Golfdotz. golfdotz.com. You can find it linked in the video description as well. Until next time, happy marketing, everyone.